Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called the Sacred Ritual of Anointing the Dying. Walk the Myrrophore's path and tend to souls in transition with love, sacred oils, and soul wisdom. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and we've been engaged in a deep exploration of the portal of the death process and what that opens us up for us in life. And so it's such an important transition, and it's been steeped in a lot of fear or resistance or denial. And one of the people who's really been opening it up as a time of spiritual potential, blessing, even joy, is Felicity Warner, who is the founder of Soul Midwives. She's an author, she's an end-of-life doula, and Myrrophore, which you're going to learn a bit more about what that means today. So thank you so much for joining us again today, Felicity.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. I am so happy to be here again.
Great. And I want to let everyone know right up front, we're going to have a new course with Felicity called Sacred Anointing for the Dying, Reclaim the Myrrophore's Path of Ancient Oils and Rituals for Soul Transition. Very excited about this, totally new terrain for the Shift Network, and as we'll find out today, very important. So Felicity, I'd love for you to share at the beginning here a bit about your journey, particularly into working with dying and working with sacred oils as part of that process.
Oh, I'm delighted to share. It's a story that is beginning to make more sense to me the older I get. So I'll share it as far as it goes now. I began working with the sacred oils and learning to be a Myrrophore long before I began my death and dying work. And when I was a teenager, I lived in Copenhagen, and I was invited to meet a very old lady, as she was by then, who worked with oils. And I had an interest in healing and was invited to go and meet her. She was very tricky, actually, dare I say it. But she looked at me, she sized me up and down, and then she got out all these oils and asked me to feel them and smell them and explain what I was feeling from being with them. And that was the beginning of this incredible journey. And so, to cut a very long story short, she taught me over 3 years how to work with the sacred oils, to know which one could heal and do what it was meant to be doing as a healing gift. She also taught me about energy medicine and also about the energy work of the spirit and the soul, and especially applying that to transition work, to death and dying. So I did this work over 3 years. It's coming up for 50 years ago, which is quite scary for me. But it was a rigorous training, and what she needed to be sure of, that I would be a safe pair of hands to receive this knowledge. Now, at that time, we need to remember aromatherapy wasn't really being talked about. Mary Magdalene certainly wasn't being talked about very much. And this was a lineage that she initiated me into. And it's the lineage attached to Mary Magdalene and her teachings and her continuing ministry after Jesus died on the cross. And so this was a fascinating time for me. The big thing is, Stephen, that I was told after being anointed myself in this tradition that there would come a time on the planet when this knowledge would be so incredibly important for the whole of mankind. And so, age sort of 15, I had no idea what that was going to be about. And it is only now that I realize how important it is that we understand not only the soul and the spirit and all about transition, but we really need to be able to put this into practical use. So this weaves in my other work, which is as a soul midwife. I created soul midwifery some 30 years ago now to teach people about holistic and spiritual care of the dying. And the work I do there is in clinical settings. It's very practical, very down to earth, but the oils come in and support that therapeutic work. And they are really, I think, they are medicines for the soul for the dying, but not only the dying, because we're all in need of these medicines all the time. So there is a very wide breadth of application for these sacred oils. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to share the power of them and how we can all be using them in this upcoming course.
Mm. What a beautiful journey you've been on. And I'm intrigued to dive a little deeper into, you mentioned that this was a Magdalene lineage and that she was continuing even deeper lineages, and it connects in with the Myrrophores. Maybe share a little bit about some of that historical backstory and why these oils really have such spiritual importance as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So Mary Magdalene was called and belonged to a lineage of women called Myrrophores. And Myrrophore really means a woman who offers myrrh. Also, they're called mistresses of the oils. And this is a lineage that goes back actually further than Mary Magdalene, way before the Egyptian temple times, where priestesses were especially trained in energy medicine and in transition and soul work. And you'll probably remember, because Mary Magdalene is the most iconic member of this lineage, that she had this incredible bottle of spikenard, which is one of the sacred oils I'll be teaching about, the night before the crucifixion. And she anointed Jesus's feet with this precious oil, spikenard, which is still costly. And then she washed and wiped his feet with her hair. And she was actually criticized for doing this by some of the other disciples, because they said it was such a costly and extravagant gesture. But the clever thing is that she understood the frequency of the oil spikenard. And the frequency of spikenard, and I'll talk more about frequencies in a minute, the frequency of that specific oil is very attuned to the frequency of someone who is about to die, and for their evolving and surviving consciousness after death. So she knew exactly what she was doing in that incredibly tender act in the evening before the crucifixion. And so the whole of the lineage that I was brought up in revered Mary Magdalene as the teacher and the great spearhead of this work. And I would say she is continuing to be a teacher. She is still giving us transmissions to this day about the potencies of these incredible oils for this incredible time on the planet.
So let's dive into a little bit more about how the oils work and what we've learned in sort of modern science that sort of complemented what the lineages have told us.
Yeah, so there again, this is so interesting. So we have the old and the ancient wisdom now meeting modern science. And as we all know now, and Tesla told us, of course, as well, that every single thing is frequency, everything has a vibration. And of course, every part of the human body does, the actual physical body, but also the etheric body. So we are exuding frequencies the whole time. Now, when we're in a state of transition, and my work is mainly to do with death and dying, our body's frequency is constantly shifting as we lose certain core elements within our basic body system. And as we lose these core elements one by one, and these are represented by the elements we all recognize, air and water and fire and earth, as those slip away from us from the very last time, and of course the Tibetans taught us much about this as well in their own way of looking at death and dying. As that happens, we lose frequency. So the oils come in to help us to retain some equilibrium and balance. And each oil has its own frequency as well. So this is a clever marriage of frequencies which then resonate together and then harmonize and realign and rebalance us. This is really exciting ancient work, ancient wisdom, but really married up with modern quantum physics as well. And this is really cutting edge energy medicine, actually. And so I'll just give you one tiny example. If we're thinking about grief, you know, you imagine someone who is totally racked with raw and deep and painful grief, so bad they can hardly live their lives. The grief transmits a frequency. Now, there is a wonderful sacred oil called violet, just from that little plant that grows all over the place. And its frequency matches the frequency of grief. So if I'm working with someone who has been bereaved and is feeling very lost and very desperate, I'll use the violet oil to anoint them, and in doing so, the grief is brought up to the surface and healed. And it's beautifully simple, and I'll be able to show people how to do that sort of healing in this course.
I wonder if you want to share anything about why this is important, not just for the process of dying, but really for the soul journeying onward to sort of have this level of frequency medicine as you're preparing for transition.
Well, that's another really deeply interesting and powerful aspect of the dying process. We're very geared up to seeing it as a physical process. You know, we get ill, we develop disease, or we get old and we gradually become more frail, and then we begin to die. But energetically, throughout that process, and again, I'm really going to be drilling down into this in the course. Energetically, there are all these mini transitions and processes going on during the dying process. And these oils will come in and help us to navigate that journey beautifully. So again, one of the big things that comes within the dying process, and not many people actually recognize this, is the fact that we are being invited along the way in a psycho-spiritual way anyway, to release baggage that we've accumulated through a lifetime, to release soul wounds that have become embedded within us. Things like feeling we're not good enough, or that we haven't been heard, or that we have no real voice in the world. These soul wounds, as we're dying, come up to the surface to be released, so that the soul doesn't need to go from this incarnation through to the next level of consciousness with any baggage with it at all. The idea of a good death energetically is about going into the light and feeling free and fresh and ready to continue the soul's journey. So again, this is where the oils come in, by working with these oils and anointing with them. And I'm really going to be talking about anointing, of course. We can be helping prepare someone to not only have a beautiful and dignified and calm physical death, but to have an incredible and ecstatic release following the physical death into the great cosmos. And that is the nature of the mystery of life and death itself.
I love that description. Well, maybe share a little bit about how the anointing process itself and how it connects to energy systems and the sort of like frequency medicine that we've been talking about.
Yes. So again, this is so interesting. You know, we've all heard of anointing, and it kind of feels a bit antiquated. It feels a bit religious. It feels, you know, as if it's something we heard when we were kids in Bible stories, people anointed. But in fact, what it was doing was, it's an ancient healing practice, and it's about transference of frequency. So as I was saying, every sacred oil has its own frequency that we, as the Myrrophore or the mare bearer or the healer working with oils, can then transfer to the person who needs the healing. And so the anointing is actually the act of doing that. It's about transferring frequency from one person to another. And it can be as simple as that. But there is so much wisdom and knowledge contained within that. And there are so many things that we can learn to make the anointing more powerful and more potent, such as where we anoint on the body. So we may anoint on the forehead, we may anoint on the throat, we may anoint on the heart, or the hands, or even the soles of the feet. So again, I'm going to explain along the way in the course why these various energy points in the body and specific points really can magnify and potentize the effect of the anointing of the oil. So anointing isn't just putting some oil on your finger and putting it on another person and saying, I anoint. It's a ritualized blessing. It's a potentized form of handing across frequency, which will then realign and rebalance the other person's spirit and soul. And so it's a very, very powerful method of healing, which has been really kept under wraps for many centuries. And again, I was taught this as a very young girl, that anointing would be understood again by the people. And that was always one of the sort of big pieces I had to remember as a little girl. You know, this will be important one day. An anointing will come back and you will learn to anoint and you will teach other people to anoint. And as I say, it's only just now that this time is coming where actually we all have the power to turn our hands that we know so well, into laser beams of light when it comes to transferring these frequencies to other for the good of the whole world.
I love that, laser beams of light. Maybe share a little bit about, so we focus more on the dying process, but given that you're sort of doing specific activations and that frequency intervention in the body, how valuable is it to do the same processes for those who aren't facing death anytime
Ah,
soon?
I'm so pleased you asked me that, Stephen, because although, as I say, my everyday work is really about death and dying, the whole of life is about transitions. You know, we transition from being a small baby to a child to a teenager. We go through life transitioning the whole time. And transitions also take place when we have a change of life circumstances, a relationship goes wrong, or we have a new job, or we're moving to another part of the world. These are exactly the same sort of transitions that we can support by using, again, these incredible sacred oils, which are medicines for the soul. So I have many people come to me with specific problems that they just can't shift or they haven't been able to work with. And we can, by hearing their story and by unraveling what's driving the problem, we can then work out which sacred oil to use to help them navigate life's full journey. It doesn't have to be death and dying. This is ultimately about the soul and about navigating the soul's journey through eternity. It is as big as that. When you start really looking at it, this work encompasses everything from your basic daily life to your death to your ongoing consciousness. So this is work of such magnitude that I am thrilled to be able to share the way that we can all make such a difference to ourselves, but also to others and everyone around us.
I wonder if you could help take us through some of the stages of dying and how different oils might support those different stages.
Yes, so I mentioned that when we die, the core elements start to gradually withdraw from our body. And the first element to go is the earth element. And that's very characterized by people feeling tired and feeling they can't quite be bothered so much anymore with things, and they're not joining in with life as much, and they're just withdrawing slightly. When they're in that phase, and classically that's the beginning of old age, but you also get that with people who have some other form of life limiting illness. But we will work, there are two magnificent oils that we will work with at that stage, Fragonia and Mei Chang. And these two oils come in, and what they do is they replace some of that missing earth element, and they enhance the energy system so that the person who's receiving these oils suddenly feels more like themselves again. They're feeling a bit stronger. They're starting to enjoy life more. And so that's one classic example. The next stage will be the water stage. Now, that is the most exquisite time in a person's dying time, when they're beginning to remember their life, they're looking back, they're feeling nostalgic, amazing moments are coming back from memory. A lot of people start to feel homesick again for their childhood, or homesick for their parents who are probably long dead by now. But at that stage, we'll work with another beautiful oil called Ravensara, which comes in and mothers the soul and makes it feel full and rich and supported. So again, I'll be explaining all about this in great depth so that you understand what's going on in that process, and you can really help somebody to feel calm and safe and loved at that time. And then we go into the fire element, which is, wow, it's so powerful, it's strong, it's dynamic. People get what is called terminal agitation at this stage. They are all over the place, and it is the place where we see what we call the dark night of the soul arise. And this is the place where people can feel temporarily abandoned, and they may lose their joy, they may lose their faith, and may feel terribly alone. This is a part of the dying process, but it doesn't last forever. And we just have to hold the faith and know it will come to an end. So I will be really describing that again in great depth, and giving stories to illustrate everything I talk about too. And we'll work with an oil called Niauli there, which is a very powerful oil. And then we come into the final stage, which is the air stage. Beautiful, beautiful stage to support someone when they are becoming light as air and their breath is starting to change. And we work with an incredible oil called Elemi, which is all about working with heaven and earth, and its energy comes in to support and create a golden cord between the physical body and the higher body, and it helps us to embrace and surrender to death in a joyful and extraordinary way. So I love teaching this session as well, because it's so uplifting. And then we will also have a session at looking how we can use sacred oils to support people who are newly dead. Now that might sound extraordinary, and it is, but again, it's so important that we honor the soul, we honor the life that has been lived. We keep the connection of love and tenderness as well. And this is another really important part of the work that we can be doing. So I'm very keen to share that with everybody.
Mhm. Well, your passion is very contagious, and I would love to just keep asking you questions, but I know you also want to guide us in an experiential meditation where we start to really taste a bit of what you can experience during an anointing. So why don't you take us away with that?
I'd love to do that, Stephen. Okay, so in this guided meditation, we will visit a healing temple in the sacred realms where Myrrophores anoint those who are at the edge of life. And we will also be offered an anointing for ourselves. So I invite you now to become nice and comfortable. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or lower your gaze and take a nice, long, deep breath in. And as you let it out, let go of any tension or distractions and allow yourself to feel calm and loved and fully present in this moment. So let's just try that. Fill your lungs and exhale gently, releasing any stress. And as you let that breath out, feel yourself becoming more grounded and more centered. Okay, let's have a minute or two of that. And now we're there. So, we're walking through a garden of a temple. It's warm and it's sunny, and the apple trees are all in blossom. There are white roses flowering, and their beautiful scent fills the air, mixed with lavender and jasmine and blue irises, which are swaying in the breeze. We reach the temple and its doors are wide open, and the crystal columns at the entrance are bouncing beams of rainbow lights across the courtyard. The gentle sound of water is sprinkling from fountains. Crystalline droplets are splashing softly into shimmering pools. Pause a minute if you like and dip your fingers in the cool water. With each touch, you will become lighter and freer. And then one of the Myrrophores, dressed in a teal-coloured robe, comes out to greet you. She has a beautiful smile. She explains that this healing space is for all who are transitioning through life. And she points gently as well to figures reclining in the sun. These are souls in transition, bathed in radiant light. They glow softly, each one surrounded by an aura of peace and love, devoid of pain or fear. The Myrrophores move amongst the souls, and their presence is soothing and nurturing. They offer gentle caresses and comforting words, and they're helping each soul navigate their journey with compassion and love. And as they pass by you, you feel the warmth of their energy and the beautiful fragrance of the sacred oils they're using. Now, in the middle of the temple is a golden altar adorned with glistening jars, and the Myrrophores are selecting the oils, each chosen with the intention to assist the soul in its journey. And then a priestess comes to you and smiles kindly. "Come," she says softly, "let me anoint you so that you may heal your heart and realign your spirit and soul. Together we will restore your body to a state of divine grace." And then she dips her fingers into sacred rose oil, allowing it to warm in her hands. And she begins the anointing on your forehead, between your eyes, placing her fingers lightly on your skin. And she draws small circles with the oil. You feel a wave of healing energy wash over you. And next, she moves to your heart center, placing both hands over your chest. She pours a few drops of oil onto the palms of her hands and presses them gently against you. Feel the warmth radiating from her hands and enveloping your heart. The oil carries the essence of love, dissolving any pain or heaviness that you have been holding. And in this moment, you are filled with a profound sense of forgiveness and compassion for yourself and others. And now she takes your hand in hers and she anoints each palm in sacred oil. As she does, she whispers prayers of healing and alignment. Now visualize the healing energy flowing through your hands and connecting you to the universe and to all beings. You have now become a vessel of love and light, radiating peace and tranquility. As your anointing continues, you may feel a shift within. Tears of joy may stream down your cheeks, not from sadness, but from the release of burdens that you didn't even know you were carrying. And now in this peaceful moment, once the anointing is complete, she steps back, allowing you to bathe in everything that is beautiful. You feel ecstatic and serene. And so, as you return from this visit to the temple, remember that the essence of this anointing is always available to you. You are filled with light and the infinite love of the universe. So carry this feeling in your heart and know that you are always supported and cherished. And then when you feel ready, just take a few deep breaths and return. Come back, come back, come back.
Well, thank you for that. What a beautiful, just feeling of blessing that was. I want to ask a question about, you said releasing burdens that you didn't even know you had. And so I think it seems like that's kind of at the heart of this, is that the frequency helps to release things that we no longer need. Maybe share a little bit more about how you perceive that happens, that just simply the oils and the connecting with them leads to a sort of a releasing of things that
It
need
does.
to let go.
It does. We need to remember, Stephen, that these oils are themselves intelligent forces. They understand, they carry energy, they have wisdom, they are master teachers. And so they will always see the bigger person in somebody's soul state. They will see that bigger picture. They will know what we cannot know. They will even know what the person themselves doesn't know. So what they're doing is, when they're matching their frequency, is they are going in literally at soul level to help release that which is no longer needed. And so, as we were saying earlier, this might be it as we're approaching death, and there is that incredible need to release what we no longer need so we don't take it with us. But also, as we're trying to heal in life, the release of outdated patterning and things that are no longer serving us is so incredibly healing, and really very much about what we need to be doing now at this time in the universe to help us navigate all the changes that we're going through. So this is why they're so important at the moment, I think.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I'd love you to reflect on any sort of deeper insights about this whole relationship between sacred oils and intention and our energy body, because I do think it's this whole interesting portal that can open up of how we can help to refine our systems, open, heal in a way that that is working on a vibrational level rather than just a cognitive level.
Absolutely. I mean, I think most of us really understand now that we are shifting our own individual frequencies so fast. I mean, they are literally at times going so incredibly quickly that it's hard to keep pace of them. You know, thinking even where I was 6 weeks ago energetically seems like old news now. I'm already further down that road, and we're all doing this. We're all moving incredibly quickly at the moment. So I think learning about how the oils can really accompany us on this enormously fast-paced journey that we're all on is something that we can all just be doing and using for ourselves. And the thing that I love about the oils is that they are so available. You know, they're easy to buy, they aren't all very expensive, and yet when we can learn to make ourselves clear vessels to receive their frequency, we can then begin to experience these incredible shifts that come as we are releasing all the stuff that we don't need anymore. So every single day I work with the oils in the morning, and I'm finding I'm needing to do this twice a day at the moment, just to keep pace with everything that is happening around us. So if anyone is thinking, is there one oil that I can just work with and it will just take me to a good place straight away, I just want to say, go out and buy some rose oil and literally just put some on the palm of your hand. Set an intention that it will help you to release all that you no longer need with you for your highest good. And that will be enough to start the healing process, I promise you. So do try that.
Very practical recommendation there to how to begin this work. And I know people can go much deeper with you as well. So I want to talk about your upcoming course because it's a very unique opportunity to kind of do a virtual apprenticeship with all that you've received and learned and practiced over time so that people can take this in and apply it in their own lives. So Felicity's agreed to teach a brand new program for a shift. It's called Sacred Anointing for the Dying, Reclaim the Myrrophore's Path of Ancient Oils and Rituals for Soul Transition. And you can find it at the URL sacredoilsfordying.com. We should, of course, note, as we've said here today, there are wide applications beyond the dying process, but with the core insights and patterns come from that and then allow us to sort of create a different relationship with essential oils and healing propensity powers of them. So Felicity, I would love for you to share a little bit about your intentions for the program and what you feel people will come away with. And then let's go through the modules and give a sense for what's coming in each.
Absolutely. What I really aim for from this course is to empower people to really understand their process and then really have the tools to work with, and to be able to do this in a simple but sacred way that not only heals them but enhances their life, and also enhances their connection with the divine. So when I work with these oils, I just feel that I am on a hotline to higher consciousness, and that I only need to ask questions and I will receive the answers for my own healing and for things I need to know. So I really hope that people following this course will not only help themselves and their loved ones, but they will also be able to help their whole communities by understanding and being able to offer these tools.
Module 1, Anoint with Purpose to bring wholeness, completion, and peace to the dying.
Yeah, so that's going to be really about the nuts and bolts of anointing. And as I said, these are quite extreme and powerful energetic practices. So I'm going to really teach you how to offer those and create them in the most meaningful way.
Module 2, Channel the energies of sacred oils to relieve distress and elevate the spirit.
Yes, so this is really about learning which oil will work for what problem. So we'll be looking at a number of oils and looking at their frequencies and working out how we can find out more about the frequencies to make the right choices.
Module 3, release the earth element and begin the journey home with sacred oils that support letting go.
Yes, so as I was saying, this is the first step towards the dying process, but also the dying of the old within us. So we'll be looking at how we embrace and hold that and the oils to work with that.
Module 4, soothe the spirit and heal deep soul wounds by flowing with the water element.
Yes, the water element is so beautiful to work with. And as it withdraws, all these memories and the soul wounds come up to the surface. So we're really going to unpick that and really see how we can work with these beautiful oils to make that journey very smooth and very, very gentle.
Module 5, transmute darkness into light through the fire of the soul.
Yeah, well, this is really looking at the dark night of the soul and the power and the fire that comes in to transmute and to end the old and to birth in the new. So this is very pivotal for this time as well.
Module 6, support the final breath with sacred air oil to ease the transition into pure consciousness.
So this is all about this wonderful moment of ecstatic release and surrender. And this may come at time of death, but it also might come at the end of a big journey you've been going through in life as well. And this is such a moment, and we can help design it and create it and form it with these sacred oils. So I'm really looking forward to teaching that module.
And finally, Module 7, create sacred space for the soul's passage with love, ritual, and sacred oil.
Yes, so we have this great mystery about the essence of life and death, and I create a lot of work around how we support the newly released soul after transition, and I use ritual and certain oils to really help with that. This helps a lot with grieving as well, and so I really hope this is a very profoundly healing module for everybody.
Well, what a beautiful curriculum, and clearly it is just sourced from so much passion and wisdom and desire to serve. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail at sacredoilsfordying.com, sacredoilsfordying.com. So in addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions that we've just described with Felicity, you'll have your time to ask your questions live and engage in interactive practices. You also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts that you can work with, study, and highlight for years to come. There's weekly practices and exercises for home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And then on the page, you also see a number of great extra bonuses as well, each designed to enhance your journey. There's a PDF from Felicity on Guide to Choosing Sacred Oils. So Felicity, you want to share more about that guide?
Yes, I really want to make it easy so that people know what to look for when they're actually going out to buy sacred oils, because there are so many oils out there, but there are certain characteristics that are just really useful to know about. So that's going to cover all of that.
There's a second bonus called Using Anointing Symbols to Magnify Intention. That's a PDF from Felicity. You want to share about using symbols?
Yeah, so again, this goes way back into the lineage, that there are certain symbols associated with certain aspects of anointing. And these have been kept secret. These have been kept under wraps for centuries. But the feeling is now is the time to reveal them, to really start working with them, because they potentize the ritual of anointing so much. So I've put together some symbols for everyone to be working with alongside working with the oils.
That's a great extra bonus. And then there's one extra bonus that is very special, actually, and it's a bonus combining Felicity and Andrew Harvey, who's one of the most beloved teachers at Shift. It's called Feel the Magdalene Presence. And so it's going to go deeper into the Magdalene lineage here, it sounds like. And Felicity, you want to share a little bit about that bonus?
Yeah, well, Andrew and I just had a sort of electrifying conversation when we got going, talking about the influences of Mary Magdalene on both of us, and how we also are feeling and putting into some context this incredible awakening that is coming back through at the moment from the whole Magdalene energy field. So I know that you're going to love this conversation because it is riveting and very, very full of joy and ecstatic reflections. So I know that people are going to really enjoy watching that one.
I'm sure that's just an amazing dialogue. The two of you, such deep spiritual practitioners, and so much joyful understanding too of how we can really embody the Magdalene lineage now. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible, given all the depth and breadth of it. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start on May 6th and run Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make those live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's also on the page, you'll see quite a number of beautiful testimonials about Felicity and her work. I found Felicity's perspective and approach to the subject of dying both compassionate and practical at the same time. Perhaps going to become the most influential and transformative experience in our lifetime and lifetimes to come. Delightful, and gave me many new insights and helping others. So many great tools should be taught in all healing environments. So really great testimonials from folks who took Felicity's last program from Shift. And I know that you're going to be in really good hands and receive a profound wisdom transmission, and also really benefit in the healing of yourself from this understanding of how to work with sacred oils to really have the potential to help us release old burdens, to open new portals in consciousness, and to really up-level how we do life on this planet. Yeah. So again, it's all at sacredoilsfordying.com, sacredoilsfordying.com. And you get the special bonus with Felicity and Andrew when you sign up by midnight tonight. So Felicity, anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the full course with you?
Well, I do hope you'll join me, because I've only skimmed over the surface of what we will be covering in this course. It will be huge in its depth, and I'm very thrilled to be teaching it, because for me it is the zenith of this 50-year long initiation that I have received myself. So to be able to share that feels deeply profound. But I just wondered, Stephen, if I could share a tiny short blessing from the Magdalene lineage. It's actually in Aramaic, so I don't know if I am going to get the pronunciation completely correct, but it's encoded to speak the language of love directly into the heart. So I'm going to go for it, and it is short. So here we are. Baruch Atra min Naharu in Mikhundna u Akara Dikaya. And the translation of that is, blessed is the presence from the light and the healing and the fullness of life and all creation from my heart to yours. So I just wanted to offer that in the language and the native tongue of the Magdalene herself.
Well, I can't tell you whether you pronounced it all correctly, but it sounded like the transmission felt spot on. So thank you for that blessing, and thank you for the blessing of your wisdom in this last hour, and for guiding us in really taking better care and deeper care of ourselves and our loved ones in this important portal of death. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I've so enjoyed talking to you again.